Hi, this is a demo on a tabletop RPG style character build economy for a superheroes game. Uh, a very simplistic tabletop RPG superheroes game. And we're going to go ahead and show off a quick demo of what this looks like in play. The short version of the rules is that each character has a small number of abstracted stats like damage, toughness, mobility, utility, stuff like that, uh, and a few powers to sort of bolster whatever their abilities are. The rules for the game are simple. Each character has a few very simple abstracted stats like damage or toughness or evasion, utility, and so on. And when presented with a challenge that invokes one of these things, they roll a 10-sided die and then add their modifier to it. If they get a 5 or higher, then it is a success. If they get a 10 or higher, it's a super success and things go particularly well. And a 15 or higher is a heroic success and they showcase how strong or powerful and cool they are. And there are additional bonuses that can come about because of that. At the end of a game, depending on how much you did and how successful you were, you will get a number of hero points that you can use to improve your character between games. So in this short little demo, we've got a scenario set up here with Doctor Strange, Spider-Man, Cyclops, and Drax fighting Ultron and an army of I guess these are robots.
Yeah, robots.
Threatening an old woman. And the team of heroes needs to protect the old woman and fight off Ultron to make sure he doesn't cause any real damage. Now, in this in this abstraction, Drax and Cyclops are going to be working to hold off Ultron and maybe defeat him, while Spider-Man keeps the old woman nice and protected, and Doctor Strange moves around and tries to take care of the robots and make sure that the rest of the city is more or less safe. So in the case of the combat over here between Drax and Cyclops, Cyclops is going to be needing to deal damage to Ultron, evade his attacks, and maneuver through the battlefield. So he's going to make 3 rolls. One for damage, where he has a 6 in the stat, so he gets to add +6 to this roll. And he rolled a 6, so that's a 12. That's a super success. He does very well against Ultron, and that begins to pull him back. We're going to mark down 2 for the super success on a separate sheet. We will have him roll to see how well he evades Ultron's attacks in the process. And he rolls an 8.
Oh wow.
Very good with his 2 evasion. That makes it a 10, and another super success. And then he'll finish off with mobility, where only has a +1 to try and maneuver the battlefield and keep an advantageous position. That didn't go very well. That was a super duper failure, and that's fine. It's a mostly successful encounter, just had a hard time moving around the battlefield. Drax, on the other hand, is going to be doing a little bit of mobility as well, trying to stay on top of Ultron, because he's a much shorter range person. 5 with his mobility of 2 is just a regular success, and he does alright. He's going to be punching out Ultron, obviously, or stabbing him with knives, one of the two. With his strength, or with his damage of 4, that's a 14. It is very strong. Then we're going to go ahead and, because he's going to not really be trying to avoid the attacks, he's just going to be tanking them. He's super duper tough. He has a 9 rank on toughness. So he's going to be just taking hits and seeing what happens. And he rolls a 4. Also, that's a 13. A little bit lower than his damage roll. But that is 2 super successes and 1 regular success. So Drax is doing pretty well in this encounter. We'll move over to Doctor Strange, who's focusing on dealing with all of the robots moving around and keeping the city safe. He's going to be making a mobility roll to maneuver around the battlefield and make sure he gets stuff taken care of. That is a 6 with his mobility of 3. It's only a 9, so it's a regular success, but he's able to fly around with his cape and make sure he's able to intercept all of the robots. We're going to give him utility, which is also at a rank 9, to just do some crazy spells and try and keep everything under control. Not great. It's a 12, which is a super success. And then he's going to follow up with with an evasion to make sure he's not being taken out, being hurt by all of the robots. With a +2, that's 3 plus 2 is a 5, so that's 1 success. Doctor Strange is doing all right.
Yep.
And then finally, Spider-Man, trying to keep the old woman safe, is going to be making a mobility, evasion, and utility roll to try and wrap up some of these guys. So first off, utility, of where he has a 2. Is a 10, so it's a super success on his utility. He's doing very well, trying to keep everybody webbed up and keep people safe. His evasion, to make sure that he and the old lady are nice and safe as he maneuvers through the streets, is at a +4, so that's just a regular success. He's doing his best and he's taking a couple of licks, but the old woman's probably alright. And then lastly is his mobility, to maneuver around the city. He's got a mobility of 5. He's very flexible. He's very fast. He's got good jumps. He's got his webs. With a +5, that is a 13. Another heroic success.
Very nice.
Or a super success. So all of these things give you a basic abstraction of how well these characters would do. These roles would be put into deeper context with more going on, more actual maneuvering around this space in an actual game, but those normally take 2 to 4 hours, so we're not going to do that.
Right.
At the end of this abstraction, though, we can come back and take a look at their actual point values and the number of successes they got over the course of this game. Cool. So they each got 4 to 5 successes, which in this kind of encounter is going to go ahead and net them about half rounded down, so each of them gets 2 points to be able to divvy up into their actual stats between games.
Yeah, and then they can choose anything that they want.
Yep, they can put it into any of the existing stats that they have access to, or they can save them between games. You may want to have access to bigger abilities, and you'd want to have more points in order to invest into those abilities. So let's say Spidey wants to increase his mobility. It takes a number of points equal to half of the current skill that you have, rounded up to be able to get a new one. So bumping his mobility up would take 3 points. 5 halved round up is 3 points. But he could put another point into evasion. He spent 2 points to bump his evasion up to a 5. Doctor Strange could bump. Let's go ahead and put 2 points into damage even. Give him more offensive spells. Drax could put another 2 points here into his damage to bump it up 1 rank, up to a 5. And then Cyclops might put a point into evasion to bump it up here, and a point into mobility to move her around the battlefield. And then the next week or the next session that's had, there will be a new situation, there will be new rolls to make, and they get to roll with the new stats that they've then accrued.
So that's a basic abstraction of the system that we've created in the action RPG tabletop game. All right, so we're going to jump on over to Machinations now. So this is our system that we have. So we had to greatly abstract it from what you saw. We had to abstract it even more. This is the start of a game where each player has 3 power points they can disperse to 3 powers, and they can double up on powers if they want. So whenever we play this, you can see that it randomly gives it to, let me just do a step by step. There we go. So what this did was that it chose the psychic power, the blaster, and then the durability. And then you can see that this translates into, oh yeah, and I forgot also, they have 5 power points as well to start off with. So they chose 2 in evasion, 1 in mobility, 2 in items. And then these powers, you can see that each one, blaster went into 3 for damage, And then let's see, that's durability 3 for toughness, and then what's the last one? Psychic is multiple, so that goes into social and then utility. So that should disperse properly, and then that just that's their skills to start off with.
The whole character creation process.
Yep, the whole character creation process. So that's done, and then now we move on to this section where basically there's the encounters. So you can see that that was just basically an encounter right there. Was that they have multiple tasks, and then each task has different type. So it could be a combat, a social, or a utility type. Of course, for this, we had to simplify it into these 3 categories. The player, Donovan, correct me if I'm wrong, but the player can roll dice for each of these. But in Machinations, I had to simplify it into this, unfortunately. And I could only use percentages, really. So they have a 50% chance of winning, like the successful task, and then the modifier adds to that value, and then increases their odds of winning. So kind of simulates the real world in a way. Although I've found that in our system in tabletop, there's far more successes than Machinations, which definitely has less successes. So let's continue on. So this is interesting. So depending upon the severity of the encounter, it can either be a 1 or a 2. And then a 2 means that it has at least 2 tasks plus any number from 1 to 3. So we'll see what it has. So 3 tasks, and then it chose type of combat. Now combat is one of the most common ones, as is utility, and then social, there's only 2 for that. So then we tick that. So it got a 1 for combat, so that was a win. Then that was a 0, so that meant that the task failed. And then each successful task, it adds to the hero points that the player can then disperse. So there they go. They went to social. And of course, this isn't really going to be visible in the tabletop version, but this is just a rough simulation in Machinations. So now we can just see it play and disperse points. And then, of course, at the end, whenever task is equal to 0, it just filters out, resets severity and type. And then this game will go on until 8 sessions, and then once it hits 9, then it ends. So sort of simulating a real tabletop situation that way. Because, you can't go forever and have like so many sessions. I think that about does it with this. So let me just crank it up. Just let it play. So yeah, and as you can see, I did have some issues with this modifiers. Sometimes they don't match the correct values. I don't know why it does that. This is definitely a buggy program that I found. It's still very much in beta, but this still gives a rough estimate of how a typical player's journey would be. So I think it's about to end, and there you go. That's the end of the game. So there you go. That's the Machinations.